What's good, everybody? Hope you all are having a wonderful day. I'm going to be bringing you another in-depth guide. This time going to be with one of the funnest characters in the game, in my opinion, Ezmo. Okay, so to be honest, I haven't played Ezmo a lot, but I did play Stormcaller a little bit from BLC. He does play quite different, though. I don't think he's that similar. But we're going to jump into his kit, and there are going to be definitely some places that people are going to be up for debate, I'm pretty sure, with this one. But like I said, I think he's one of the funnest characters in the game. So his M1, he has 5 ammo, just like Jade usually, or Jade does. I think Jade has 6. But you see, so he's another ammo, one of the range. When you hear the shing, that is when you reload, so a good audio cue for you if you're not really sure where you're at, or if you have the full charges. So they deal just a little bit of damage, so 6 apiece, but when you hit all 5, that means it's 30 damage, which is pretty good. The other thing with it, which is it 3% or 4%? 3% energy gain. So that means if you hit all 5, you're going to get 15% energy, which is actually really good. So he's got kind of moderate range, I would say. Let me see if I can get just out of his... I'm going to try to get just at the max of his range here. And so, as I said, he's got kind of moderate range. It's not super, super long. It's not super short. It's not like Eva short. But it can be hard because he can get outranged pretty easy. And so you got to learn to use the rest of his kit to really help him out. So as you can see here, this is just out of range there. You're not going to be able to hit him. So basically the width of this circle, if you can try to imagine it when you're out playing and fighting. So it's important because his other skills, so we're going to look at his M2, which you hold, you charge, and as you charge it goes farther, it hits, and it pulls people or pushes them. So as I show you, so you can see that actually has quite a bit more range. That's pretty significant more range. And so you're going to have to use the other skills in his kit, and we'll talk about some of those skills later, to help balance out some of the range issues. So I don't know exactly where the point is where it pushes and pulls. Like, to me, this right here will definitely push. If we're to hit this, let me see. Yeah, so that definitely pushed. My guess would be if you cast it while you are sitting in, and you see just where the arrow is, like that, I bet all of those push. Oh no, so even the max range at that, it does pull a little bit. So I don't know where exactly that point is. You're going to have to figure that out when you play for a little bit. But as I said, you're going to want to use this as a great opportunity. So as you can see, like, you're really far away, you end up pulling him in, and now he's in range for you to attack. And so that's what's really nice about the M2. It does pretty decent damage, has decent energy gain, it's decent cooldown. It's not super long, it's not super short, so you can use it frequently. I'm going to go a little out of order, actually, for Ezmo for this one, just because I think there's another skill in his kit that is super, super important. So I want to try to get at max range here again. Okay, so there's max range, and now I'm going to talk about his E, which, again, I know it's a little slightly different than what I normally do. So his E has a bit more range. You see it even hit the far back people with the root. And this is really important because your E and your M2 are going to be able to work together to help bring people into range or help you get into range easily so you can then do damage to them with your M1, because you can end up doing a lot of damage with your M1. So I'll talk about combos a little bit later, but one of the things that I really like about with his E, to me, his E is like really, really good for actually initiating the fight. Where normally, I think people try to come in with M1s, they just spam a little bit, they do whatever they can, and then they'll start bringing in their other parts of the kit. In my opinion, when I walk up, I come in mounted up, I unmount, I usually unmount with my E. So I try to hit, at a long range, and then honestly, what I'll do then is I'll immediately follow it up then, since they're rooted, try to hit them with my M2, they come into range then, and bam, I'm laying into them with my M1s, and then keeping pressure on them. And so how do you keep pressure on them? We're going to jump back to the space. And so the space is a recastable dash, as you can see there. And the dash does go through walls, so you can dash through walls if you need it. And it also resets it reloads your ammo, I guess. Kinda, it's not ammo. Anyway, so you see you got none. I teleport, I'm full. Teleport, I'm full. Boom. That's how you put out a lot of damage. So if you can, you put out that E from a distance, and then you charge up the rooted, bam, you hit them with the M2, you M1 space, M1 space, M1, because they're trying to get away from you now because you pulled them into a position that they don't like, especially like a Lucy or something. So, so next then you have the Q, which is a barrier, and it absorbs all the damage. All your damage belongs to us. And it's really good. It's got like kind of front 180 degrees, and it will help recharge your ammo too once you absorb it. So for every 10 damage, it gives you an additional charge of your weapon. So you can get more than 5, which is really nice. We covered the E. So R is really interesting. You drop a book, and the book actually has like mass, I guess I would say. Because as you can see, if I drop it here, it'll push. You see it push the person. And you see that the book aims exactly where I'm aiming. If you see there, it's actually really tight to your mouse, as you see there with the bullets. So this is something you need to be really careful with, because if you, I'm not sure you all do this, but I'm sure a lot of you do this, because a lot of players do. So when they aim, they don't aim like right here at somebody. I talked about this before in my Jade. They'll often either aim at the head, which you see it actually is going now slightly behind him. It's still hitting, but it's slightly behind. But another thing they'll do is instead of aiming on the person, they'll aim behind the person. So like even if they want to hit that front guy, or like this guy, they'll aim back here. And so what that does with the book is, you see if I drop the book here, and now I'm aiming here, I'm completely missing with my R. So you have to be really, really particular when using the R, that when you drop it, you aim right at the feet of the person you're trying to hit. So you see I drop it there, and then boom, it's like right on dead center. You know that it's going to hit. So keep that in mind with Ezmo. You really want to learn at aiming at the feet. In general, I think you want to aim at people's feet in this game. But with Ezmo, it's super important because you're going to miss a lot of damage with the R, because the R really spikes your damage. You need to learn to bring your R into like everything that you can. So usually you can get about 2 volleys out. So you see there's one full volley, they're going to recharge, there's another full volley, and the book's gone. So that's normally about what you get. And again, we'll talk about some combos and stuff later. His ultimate, I think, is terrible, to be honest. I'd much rather see EX skills being used. But we will cover the ultimate really quick. Basically just drops an AoE, which pulls people towards the center. You see them getting pulled in, does 52 damage. Now the damage is pretty significant, but it's pretty easy to avoid. Like even sometimes if you cast it like that, it's like kind of whoops, and you cast it on the side, you'll actually, the player will just be able to walk out of it. It doesn't matter. The pull is not greater than the walking of somebody. So if you don't get them even close to the center, they're not going to get hit by it. So I think I don't love the ultimate. It's got pretty short range, as you can see. Like that was maximum range, and you see it actually pulls from a far distance, but the pull isn't strong enough to really like if they're not in it, they just walk away. It's nothing. So I don't think it's super great. But so EX skills. So the EXM1 is another one that costs 50%. It's pretty rare. And what you're going to see is it's another beam. It's a beam thing, a cone beam, which is good because that means it's not going to trigger counter. So it's really important when facing people like Sirius and in people with shields like Bako and Rukan, people like that. And you're going to want to work this into your gameplay a little bit around the timing of their counters. And other than that, it's not that great of a skill. It's not that great of a skill. I think you are, it's good in 1v1s, but in 1v2s, the damage / heal output is not close to enough to warrant using it. You're going to still find that you fall behind if you end up working that in. You will fall behind. But in 1v1s, it can be okay, especially when working it in when hitting counters and shields, because then you're doing damage and healing when they're doing nothing. So otherwise, I wouldn't use it a whole lot unless it's super, super necessary. And if that were the case, I would often then couple it with my arcane ward, which is on my Q. So if I'm in a lot of pressure and I might die, I will drop that and then beam, so that way I'm not taking damage to actually heal up. Now the shield with the EXQ is actually not that much, so you're going to want to be careful to depending upon what's coming at you, because the normal Q is going to absorb damage indefinitely. So it has an indefinite amount of damage, but it's pretty short, as you can see. And when you EXQ, you get 24 shield. It lasts a little bit longer, and it's 360 degrees. So the other thing that's really nice about it is you can cast it on your allies. And so that's something I actually hold on to a lot. I actually try to play Ezmo in a way where my teammates are getting a little bit more of the pressure than I am. So I'm free to really just put on really high damage to people. But I'll give them my EXQ often to try to protect them. Now, another thing with the Q is if it breaks, that is when it gives you charges. But the entire shield has to break, and then I think you get up to 10, is that right? So yeah, you'll get up to 10 weapon charges if destroyed by damage. So I'm going to transition to combos here because it's really important when you start thinking about how are you utilizing your Q in combat. So again, by using your Q, you can gain more charges. And so we're going to try to absorb some of these. So I only got 7 on that one. Let me see if I can keep getting more so they don't have cooldowns. Okay, cool, I can. So we got 10. So now that we have 10, I can cast my R, and look at that. Oh, it mimics 10 of my bullets. So because I casted longer, I didn't get 2 full rounds, but you can get a more steady stream of damage. Now, as I showed you before, when you do it, you still get 2 volleys through normally. So as you can see, we get 2 volleys, 1, 2 full volleys, then it goes away. So you can still get 10 attacks out. However, you can't get 10 attacks uninterrupted out. So if you can pair these together in your combos, you want to try to pair getting up to 10 or getting increased charges with then following it up with more damage. However, if you can't, it's not the end of the world because as I just showed you, you still get 10 out. But as far as bread and butter, you're going to come in, you're going to drop that E, you're going to hit it. When they're rooted, you pull them in, and then you're going to lay into them with your M1. That is your bread and butter. That is just dynamite. Now with that, if you can work in you drop it, oops, hit the wrong button, you pull them in, drop your tornado. Oh, see how I aimed behind him there. Or I said drop your tornado, drop your book. And as you see though, I aimed behind him because that's what I'm used to doing. So you're going to want to hit him, pull them in, drop the book, aim at the feet, and then you'll do sick damage. So to me, like, that's the combo. That's what you want to do. Now, other play things to keep in mind though with Ezmo. Ezmo has a really hard time dealing with pressure, even, with the double dash, with the shield. He's got kind of a long cooldown on his dash, and so it can make him very vulnerable when it's down. So because of that, you need to get really good at tap casting your M2 to get some pushback and get them away from you so you can get some space and get some breathing room. And so sometimes as you're zipping around doing what you got to do, make sure that you have your M2 available or use your M2 in a way that it is going to push back and then reset. It's completely okay to reset and take some time to let your cooldowns come back so you can then further combo people. So let's check out Battlerites. I think there's a couple that we might talk a little bit different about, but I think it's okay. So in the first one, I think that Disruption is absolutely the best. I think it's by far the best. And I really like that it has the stun added to it because then they're going to take some additional damage. As they get pulled in, my M1s are for sure going to hit from the combo, at least a couple of them. The Arcane Barrage, I used to get this a little bit in the beginning, but I just don't think it's that great to recast to do 7 weapon charges as a bolt of energy, dealing 2 damage and healing 4 health per charge. I think this can actually be okay if used properly, but it's not my favorite. I like the stun a bit more, but I do think Arcane Barrage could have a place if you work it in right. I just don't think it's that great. Because again, I often like to play where I'm using my EXQ onto my teammate. So you gain 1 bonus weapon charge after using Displace, which is your space, and you gain movement speed. This one is actually not terrible either because when spacing, you're going to get an extra attack, and so it's actually going to give you 2 extra attacks, which means if you hit them all, it's going to give you 6 extra energy gain because you hit them both, and 12 extra damage. So that's not terrible, and you're going to move a little bit faster, but I still like using the stun because then I can disrupt channels, ultimates, and some other things that I normally can't in the kit. So I just think having that stun is really, really nice. So in number 2, I know a lot of people, what they'll do is they get that, then they'll go with the Warlock script because they like the range increase and the cooldown reduction. But I don't think that one's not my favorite. I like getting utility a little bit more to help them, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I think this one can be good just because how much it does increase the range, because I want to show you real quick. So here's the, here, let me take this off. Here's the normal range. And then here is the, whoops. Here is the, hey, I just got buffed range. So, oh man, I'm just clicking all the wrong things right now. So that would have hit there. I didn't know how far it would go. But look at that, all the way to the middle orb. So it actually increases the range pretty good. And so the only reason I like that is because it catches people off guard because of how much range it has. So, but after that, you know, it's kind of amp. So, so Spell Eater is you gain double the amount of charges from absorbing, and it can be increased to 12 to 10. I think that can be okay, but I prefer to get the reduced target's damage and healing output just because I like getting the utility. I like knowing that people aren't going to hurt me as much. I like to think that they're not being as efficient as they could, and hopefully some of their cooldowns get slightly wasted because I was hitting some of this stuff. So next, I often end up getting Power Thief, just to be honest, because I like having that slight bit of heal that I'm able to do by zipping around, and I'm using my space often, so I find that valuable. However, I think Exhaust is a little weak because it is hard to hit all 5 attacks, and you're basically counting on your book, because I think even if it has to be 5 in a row, and that's what makes it hard. So even with your book, that means you have to hit 3 in a row, and your book has to hit 3 in a row. It's just really difficult. I think if it was just like it had a timer on it and you just had to get 5 stacks on them and then they'd be slow for a little bit, I think it'd be different. But having to hit all of them at all the time, it's just not, I don't think it's that good. So again, when people go, they kind of do an M2 build and they'll get the bonus damage on this. Again, I would much rather have some of the utility. So it's 2 to 8 bonus damage. Well, I can get 4 bonus damage from going through somebody and healing. So this can give me 16 health differential, and this will give me a 2 to 8 health differential. So I prefer to get the Power Thief. And then next, Arcane Fire deals 2 bonus damage to enemies rooted in Shackle. That's your M1. So I think that one could be okay. It's not my favorite because, again, I'm often leading with my E and then trying to pull them in with my M2 and then hitting them with my M1. So often the root is done by then, so I don't think that's the best. And then you have the Arcane Barrier increases your movement speed. That's okay. I think when I'm in protection mode, I'm not like, oh my gosh, this 30% movement speed was so good. So I often get the Arcane Energy. It increases the amount of bullets you get, and it also, oh, I'm sorry, not the amount of bullets you get. It increases the amount of energy you get and increases the amount of energy you get per bullet. Sorry, I spoke wrong there at the beginning. So you gain energy faster. So now you can gain up to 20 energy with your attacks, which is really, really awesome. And I just think it's really strong. So that's the one I like. I like having the little bit of extra energy. So that way when I'm using my book, I'm using my shield, it's kind of always up and I'm always able to use them when I need to, and I'm gaining energy faster. So the next one, I'm not even gonna really cover these two. I think the Power Leash is terrible because when people are in my ult, I don't want to shoot them because often a counter is what's going to get them out of my ult. So I like using Life Leash. I might as well heal up a little bit if I'm going to ult, which is rare. So go ahead and pick Life Leash. Well, I hope you guys like this guide. Again, use your R as much as possible and you're going to see yourself doing a lot better with Ezmo. If you guys have any questions, concerns about the guide, please leave me a comment. If you like this, if you learned something, please hit that like button. And I really appreciate all the support. You guys are awesome. Thanks for joining the most positive place in gaming. Peace.